Welcome to Still Serving, the VFW Podcast, the official podcast of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And now, from the VFW Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., here's your host, Rob Couture.
Welcome to Still Serving. I'm your host, Rob Couture. Let's go ahead and go through roll call. Right next to me is Mike Figlioli, the Director of National Veteran Service, the new Director of National Legislative Service, Keenan, and our Executive Director, Ryan Gallucci. I'm going to come back to me because we don't have Brittany here, so I am going to tell everybody what we got going on. So, Washington Conference, it's been a while since we've talked about a lot of these things. Washington Conference, personnel changes here in the Washington office. To Washington Conference, Washington office, I know. Overseas travel, NVS update, NLS update, the Senior Vice Conference, partnerships that we have. None of this necessarily in this order, but let's go with the pressing question of the day of what has been going on since the beginning of this year. Ryan, what is going on with you?
All right. So, for those who have been watching the podcast or maybe watching this, you're probably wondering what's going on with my face.
What's up with the face?
Yeah, you just like fix your face, dude. What's up? No, so if anybody has been offered the shingles vaccine, get it. Okay? Just get it. And so here's what happened. Right around the beginning of February was heading down to the VFW North Carolina midwinter, just started getting like the worst headache I'd ever had. Next day woke up and so I had shingles in my neck. And apparently what happens if it goes in your neck is it starts to paralyze these nerves.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. You're a young man. How in the world, you are a young man. How in the world do you have shingles at this age? How's this happening?
That's a great question. It can kind of happen at any age. So I guess, I'm part of that cohort in the 80s before the vaccine came out. We were still doing chickenpox parties.
Yes.
Yeah. Well attended back in the 1980s. And so basically, if you've had chickenpox as a kid, unless you get the shingles vaccine, it can just like wake up at any time for just about any reason. They say, it could be stress, but our jobs are pretty stressful. Kind of a constant level of stress.
Yeah.
Like on a scale of 9 to 10, how stressed out are you? But there's no really known cause for what makes it manifest.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, ever since this happened and I started getting out talking a little bit more about it, I've run into a lot of people that it's happened to include people that it happened to like when they were 18, when they were in their 20s, when they just came back from deployment. Like this sounds a lot more common than waiting till 50 to give people the vaccine. That seems kind of, what are we rationing it?
So is it shingles or the hives? Like I know for you it's shingles, but for a lot of other people, do they think it's shingles? And
let me adjust my glasses here. It's caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox. So, done a lot of reading on this over the last couple of months as I'm laying in pain. But it's the same virus that causes chickenpox, just lays dormant in your nerves and can just, wake up. And apparently mine was laying dormant in my neck nerves. Great place to get, a lot of people get it in their trunk and I had it in my back and it really hurt. It's like, okay, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
It's incredibly painful, but.
So is it painful on the skin or is it painful in the body or both?
All of the above.
Oh, wow. All right.
When you actually have it. Like right now, so this is, my doctors tell me it's called like Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which is like Bell's palsy, only it's also accompanied by pain. So right now it's more like muscular skeletal pain, like still headaches. But we're working through it. And had some great doctors along the way. And also, look, getting out and talking about it has been great because run into a lot of other veterans or VFW comrades who've been through the same thing. And there's hope out there. And I'm encouraged to fix my face in the near future.
Fix face. So that's great. So taking away the stigma of this.
That's what we do. We're veterans.
So how have you adjusted? Are you doing an Edgar G. Robinson? Yeah, sorry. Are you doing one of those things now? What have you been doing?
More like watching like the Seinfeld episode where Kramer keeps getting hit in the face and then like, or the movie Ted where he puts himself back together. Will you take care of me forever and ever? Some people told me to watch Boardwalk Empire. I still haven't watched that yet.
That's a great show. You got to watch that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. You'd have to
watch it, so I haven't watched it yet.
You got to incorporate like a face mask in order to do that. So you'll understand once you see the show. But anyway. Right. Okay, so moving off your face, let's go on to other subjects. I think, Mike, so I think that normally in the course of a post-meeting that the service officer report is normally right up in the front of the order of things. Am I right?
Yeah, it's in there. So you either have somebody that has something to say, like we might, or somebody will just tell you it's one of progress. But
all right,
happy to report we've made progress. MVS has been very busy. I think since the last time I was on this show, we have finally gotten the Korea SOFA agreement through with DoD. So we'll be looking to put a BDD site in Korea at Camp Humphreys and spending some time at Osan. I think the other big news is, we recovered $14.6 billion in benefits for our veterans.
$14.6 billion.
And the good news is it all went to the veteran, right? It all went to the veteran. VFW didn't get a single dime, unlike some of the other entities that like to tell you that they can, promise the world and then steal half your money while you're looking the other way. So,
claim sharks.
I didn't want to say that word again, but okay, claim sharks. Yes, claim sharks. Got a couple of new initiatives. We're working with a company called My Bet Benefits, and that is really interesting because it's an app you download, and it's called My Bet Benefits. Download it, put in some demographic information, and it's supposed to spit out what services are in your local area as a veteran. So it's specific to not necessarily your service, but your military experience, but not brand specific.
Okay, so real quick, let me hold you there. So I believe I saw that on the VA's website. Am I right?
You did. They were featured in one of the newsletters about a week and a half ago. And if you look in the background back there in some of the screenshots, you can actually see the beginning of our logo, VFW.
Branding.
Yeah, branding. You're right. And this past weekend at our senior vice conference, when I mentioned it, a couple of state senior vice commanders downloaded it there, and they were impressed. Like, oh my God, there's 400 results in my area for all types of services, whether it's a local or state government. And the nice feature about it is if you need a VA disability claim, there's a big box right in the middle of it, and it says disability claim. You click on that, and it will direct you right to VFW service officers in your area.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right. I really like this because, Mike we were demoing it and things like that. It's finally allowing for that electronic handoff, that referral, when veterans are looking for services that, and we could track it too on the back end, right?
Yeah. So once you put your demographic information in there, it eventually will feed into our claims management system. But so all their front end work is done, and then once it goes into our system, the service officer will just basically have to set up an appointment, look at your records, submit your claim, and then we are able to track that inventory on our side. And since we did the soft launch about a week and a half ago, we've had over 600 referrals to our service officer network.
Well, I think with this podcast, you're probably going to be getting a whole lot more, maybe like 200 more. It depends on who's watching the podcast, right? Okay. What else you got?
We also have an agreement with a company called Veterans Help Group.
Yes.
So we don't do Social Security type work. That's not our domain.
Right.
But there are additional benefits out there if you're a disabled veteran. And we're going to launch it through a QR code. So if you're going to see a service officer get your claim done, they'll hand you this card. There's a QR code. It will link you to a co-branded website between Veterans Help Group. It will say VFW on there. Fill out some logic questions, and it will tell you, yes, you are eligible for SSDI as an additional payment. You may not be eligible, but could be eligible in the future. You might need some more claims work. It'll refer you back to our VFW service officers, or you're not eligible at all. So I guess one of the questions we did here, if I do this, is it going to affect my VA disability? No, it's not. It's two different pots of money. It's two different agencies. It's two different benefits. It will not affect your VA disability at all. It just is a possible additional source of income. And then any payment it's an agreement fee. So nothing comes out of your award directly as far as how to explain it.
It's Social Security. It's complicated.
No. I mean,
you're not going to get a bill.
This is why we're partnering with Exeter.
But I guess what I want to say is we are not getting any of that money. We're not collecting any of that money. That's an arrangement and an agreement fee between that company and the claimant. and then any award and any fee that's owed would come out of any initial payment. I think that pretty much covers it.
Yep, and Social Security is structured in many ways like VA benefits, where those fees are governed by laws and regulations, and anybody who provides that service, unlike claim sharks, has to abide by those laws and regulations. So there's a lot of peace of mind and a lot of protections for the veteran if they choose to go that route.
Okay. All right. That's good. I think a lot of veterans probably think about this as like, oh my goodness, am I going to get in trouble if I'm collecting a VA check? Is one of these things going to go away? My Social Security, if I'm over that age and I'm collecting Social Security, it's on top of Social Security that you're getting this benefit?
Yeah, it's two separate payments, so you're good to go, right?
I mean, you paid in Social Security.
Yes, you did.
Well, yes, this is true.
I mean, day after tax season, good timing there, Rob.
Oh, geez.
Well, I know. I tell you what.
I hope you did your guessing right.
I did. Yes, I did all my guessing right. I was living on the edge and submitted it last night at 11:11, I think. So
plenty of time.
In the 11th hour, Rob came through with his taxes for the family.
Still at 45 minutes. I mean, I think my end at 11:58. I was trying to hang on to my money as long as possible before I had to pay the IRS.
Well, it's one of those things. Like I've owed taxes for like the last 4 years, so I was real nervous. I needed to get in by the deadline. It turned out I don't this year because I gave them all kinds of money last year, and so I'm going to get a little bit of a return. So I'm very happy because it's been 4 years since I've gotten any money back from the IRS. And so anyway.
Now this is going worldwide. Here comes the audit. Didn't need the job.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay. Anything else?
No, good for now.
Good for now. Let's go. Let's go on to the NLS report with, first of all, Pat Murray.
Yeah.
Pat Murray is now no longer here at the VFW Washington office.
Pat has moved on.
Yes.
Pat has moved on for family reasons, and we wish him well. He's still very much part of the VFW family.
As a life member of Post 152 in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, the Rhode Islanders are still well represented. But yeah, Pat, I mean, really, before Pat left, he testified several times before Congress. We were testifying a lot. So between me and him and other members of our staff and NVS staff, very, very busy up until the last day before Pat's planned departure.
Well, he sure got it in, didn't he? He got in his jabs.
Absolutely. I mean, we had some complicated hearings on community care and claim sharks. And so his expertise and his nuance on just really explaining VFW's position was incredibly helpful. So, loved working with Pat. He prepared me, I hope, well for this position as legislative director. It's incredibly busy right now. Still more hearings to come. Lots of round tables, lots of events. So we're trucking on as a team, so it's going great.
I forgot to note it was just you were the only non-New Englander at this table right now, but that's okay. We are now.
Let me tell you this though. So what's great about this is everybody here served in the Army, so the Army's take it all. Sorry to ask, but it was kind of funny. On Pat's last hearing was March 11th at the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and as they're going around doing their closing remarks, you had Chairman Moran and Ranking Member Blumenthal just trying to one-up each other on thanking Pat for all of his work. It was I'd just like to add one more, and if I could just
by all.
It's hilarious is that I had a friend of mine back when we were in uniform. And do you remember when somebody like the branch manager would send out, hey, we want to send congratulations to these NCOs who got promoted, right? And then somebody would, instead of addressing it to a particular person, they would just, reply all, hey, by the way, congratulations.
Wow.
So I had a friend of mine that would say, he would reply all to the reply all, and he goes, oh man, you knocked that congratulations out of the park. Oh man, it was so funny.
You're the best.
Yeah, he got in trouble for that. But anyway, so but he's a good dude. Anyway, so you guys have any bills that are going on right now that you're looking at? There's a lot of leftovers.
Yeah, I mean, from the March conference, we had a few bills, ones that were very well known, like the Major Richard Starr Act, which was reintroduced this Congress. and some others. GI Bill parity is a big one for us. Fighting claim sharks continues to be a big thing for us. So there's lots of bills, but they're streaming in now. Now that Congress is fully sort of set up, ready to go. There's always a bit of a lull and when the Congress is new, which we had in January. So now we're getting lots and lots of bill requests. But our work with Grunt Style is going really great, and there is
Ahead of us.
we
just kidding.
we can circle back to that. But our conversations with the Hill has led to pieces of legislation. So one in particular is to create a center of excellence at VA to study some of these alternative PTSD treatments. So there's a lot in the works that we're tracking. Typically, at any given Congress, we're tracking hundreds of bills. So we're off to the races when it comes to legislation.
All right, I'm going to jump in here.
Go ahead, jump in, Ryan.
Kristina's being far too humble. Look, Kristinia has done a ton of work over the years on things like the PACT Act, helping us get the Dole Act across the finish line last year. And there's another bill. You were in a meeting with our legislator of the year, Derek Van Orden from Wisconsin, where he signed his name to and dropped the TAP Promotion Act, which is another priority to get more service officers onto military installations.
Definitely.
When people are getting out of the military. Look, I'm excited to have Kristinia in this role. She comes from a long time working for the VFW, both here in our office advocating for legislative issues, but then also as a past post commander, getting involved overseas with the Paris post. And another bill that we've gotten reintroduced is the Foreign Medical Program.
That's true. A lot of that issue came through my post and the Department of Europe. Just concerns that veterans have about getting reimbursed for some of their service-connected injuries and the healthcare that they have abroad. That directly fed into the FMP bill.
And that's really good because FMP we've been talking about for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So for your efforts and the efforts of some of our other comrades who will be watching this, let's see if VA delivers on the promise now of actually getting into the electronic age and making things easier for people. The rollout was supposed to be earlier this year, and then now it's been pushed down the road a little bit, but hopeful. But thanks to VFW legislative efforts, Kristina's efforts, the efforts of our comrades across the country that live in those areas, hopefully we'll be successful.
And a lot of this comes from overseas travel, because when we go overseas anyway,
having just come back.
As we go around and we meet with military members in Europe and the Pacific areas, they continue to provide us that feedback because we don't always get it here in the States, right? From the veterans or expat veterans that are around the world, and they're doing great work. A lot of them are doing great work in DoD positions and as government contractors, and supporting our ideals and defending, helping those that are defending freedom around the world. So when we come back from these overseas travels, much like Ryan had said, actually you were going to a stateside one when you started feeling the effects, but you were in January, you were over in Europe, weren't you?
Yes, joined our Senior Vice Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, visiting service members in Belgium and Germany, which I think we talked about on like one of the last podcasts.
I don't know, but regardless, go on, because you've since gone on another trip. You went. March was a little busy, extremely busy. We were, not only did we have the Washington conference, but I went off to Southeast Asia and Korea, and Ryan went off to Taiwan. And it was escorting, doing our mission and supporting our executives within the organization as they do these fact-finding missions, these visits with service members overseas and seeing what they're doing and getting those updates. So, Ryan, so you can touch on it if you want to, or we can talk more about the Taiwan trip.
Well, I was going to toss it to you to talk about DPAA. Okay. I was able to also join our Commander-in-Chief, Al Liphart, visiting the Veterans Affairs Council of Taiwan, which is it's a relationship that dates back to the 80s. And people probably watching are like, What's the interest? Why are we going to Taiwan? What are we doing? Well, the VFW has a resolution on supporting Taiwan's independence from mainland China, but also what that's grown into is a working relationship with their Veterans Affairs Council, where we share best practices, share ideas, things like that. So when we visit Taiwan, we're guests of the Veterans Affairs Council. Al is able to meet with their new president and talk about some shared interests there in meeting the needs of our veterans, but then also going around and visiting their veterans facilities, like their veterans homes or their Veterans General Hospital, where I got some acupuncture on my face. Oh, yeah, to try to help out. It's always great to go to the source. Learned a few things there, but then also their vocational training center, where they train veterans in high demand job skills. Just a lot of really good information sharing and partnership building. Just to have optics on what our allies are doing and how we can support one another.
So was that the president of the Veterans Council or the president of Taiwan?
The new president of Taiwan.
Wow.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's
really, really important stuff. And look,
kind of a big deal.
the importance of this is kind of going to be a segue into your visit to Southeast Asia, because this is a little bit of what the VFW does. It's veteran-to-veteran type diplomacy. And building those partnerships, those relationships with like-minded foreign nations so that we can serve those who wear the uniform. The VFW's work in this regard has opened doors in all kinds of places. I mean, I imagine, look, the VFW post in Paris is one of the, is it not? It's the oldest overseas post, correct?
It's the oldest in Europe.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the oldest overseas.
But
Interesting.
one of the reasons that post thrives is because of the work that you do with the host nation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, because you've done things like, introducing dignitaries at Arc de Triomphe and coordinating things for recognition of D-Day in Normandy. And
Yeah, and we have there's so many American cemeteries there too. So we have this partnership with France, over those cemeteries. I think there's 11 in France alone. So and the French really appreciate and want to take care of our cemeteries at the same time. So yeah, that's a great relationship. So all of these kinds of relationships that we have abroad, the VFW is present in all of them. When it comes to our service members, when it comes to bringing back remains, I mean, these relationships are really key and important.
There's also one of those foundational principles in our congressional charter to extend institutions of American freedom.
The Congressional Charter, which is listed right here in your podium edition.
Available online.
That's right. You said bringing back remains,
Yeah.
which I guess we could lead to my trip to Southeast Asia. So you're probably wondering what's right here. This is I went there, I got the hat kind of a thing. You know what?
It says it on the side, doesn't it?
It says it on. Yeah, I got it all.
Turn it for the camera.
I got it. I got it all done up. Let's turn it around for the cameras here. Yep. Boom. VFW mission to DPAA. And where did I go? Thailand and Vietnam. And when was it? March 2025. Yes, so that's where I went to.
Very specific.
It's very specific. I mean, it was going to cost more money to put the names on there. I figured, maybe not. Maybe I'll just continue to add on to it. The whole thing will be covered with embroidery.
That is
Going to true every year.
true VFW fashion.
In true VFW fashion, haberdashers in chief,
Haberdasher,
the director of haberdashery. So what do we do? I would say this is what I would liken it to. VFW posts, for the most part, we had this program called Adopt a Unit. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're right. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Adopt a Unit, right? So if you are a VFW post out there, a lot of times you look at your local military installation and there's a unit there, or maybe National Guard or Reserve, and you go and support them. Well, the Washington office, we support DPAA, and the VFW writ large does. But I kind of feel like adopt a unit with DPAA, especially these detachments over there in Thailand and Vietnam, and I'll explain a little bit about Laos in a moment. But I went over there. I brought our junior vice commander in chief, Tim Peters, and our Assistant Adjutant General, Brian Walker, who joined me on a trip over there. This is their first time going on a DPAA mission in Southeast Asia. So real important work that they're doing over there for people that don't know, and I think I've explained it before, but real quick recap. Defense POW, MIA, accounting agency, going overseas and finding those that are missing in action, not just from Vietnam, but also from World War II. I say World War II because in Thailand, we went to a site on top of a mountain, It was quite a hike.
Yeah, you literally had to hike up the mountain.
Literally hiked up. All three of us hiked up the mountain. We went down Long Trail. It was like, I think total, maybe we did 2 miles, which doesn't seem like too much, but going up a mountain,
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
But he is not your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So which means I got to get back on the stair climber a little bit more because.
Don't skip leg day. Don't skip leg day.
Yeah, I'm not going to skip leg day again. But anyway, the amount of work that they do, bringing in local villagers, and here's what was so great. So we got to experience what they do. They dry sift the dirt to find artifacts, remains, osseous material, i.e. material that might be bone, skin, flesh, all those sort of things that you can get DNA from. To help identify if this is the person that they're looking for, right? And so you have military members. They have these different teams, a recovery team. First, they have an investigation team that goes over, and then they go and investigate the site and say, yes, this is indeed, we interviewed all these people, and yes, indeed, we think this is where it is. So then the recovery team goes in there, and they'll go and they'll do the actual dig. And they assemble these teams from either DPAA or they have people that are military members that volunteer to go. Young service members, right? Young in their career. And they go over there and they're doing this hard work for like 30 to 45 days. And it is, man, I tell you what, it is not easy. I asked one of the young service members over there, I'm like, so do you go back to your room and did you bring video game system? He goes, I didn't have time for any of that. Like, basically, I wake up early, we eat, we get out onto the site, we sift dirt, dig, do all those different things. By the time we get home, we are exhausted. We shower, change, go to bed.
Oh, wow.
Like, whoa.
Okay.
I tell you what, I don't even know if I could have done that for 45 days straight. Well, of course, when you're deployed, it's a different situation, right? But the point is that these
when
young,
you're in your 20s, it's a different situation.
right? When you're in your 20s, it's a different situation, right? You have all the time in the world. But they were just so happy to see us there. Now, that's not to say we're so great, but they don't get to see any other faces but the people that are there. And so when somebody comes over and shows interest in what they're doing,
Yeah.
it really means a lot to them because they feel that their work is really important. And when somebody outside of DPAA, outside of the military, comes to visit them, it just means a lot. So we got to be able to see all those things, all that work that's going on there. In Thailand and Vietnam, we did the same thing. We went to the city of Hue. I tell you what, that was...
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, no way. Yeah, actually went there. And then we went to a site that was outside. We drove like an hour and a half through switchbacks and real close to the edge roads. It was pretty treacherous. And then finally we got out to the site, and it was, again, more young service members doing the work. And it was just really awesome. It was a great experience.
But for you, myself, I know Ryan's been out there. I don't know if Kristina's been out to the lab yet. We saw that end first back a couple years ago in our career. You've had the opportunity now to go see the front end,
Yeah.
right? But so it's kind of backwards, right? We get to see the lab. We get to see where the anthropologists and those forensic scientists work and working on those DNA samples and whatever else they've recovered. And now you've been able to look at the front of it where you understand now the difficulty in local stories, in true statements, that this is where I saw this happen, or they had to rely on family members because now they're older, they passed away.
Right.
So that for you, it's come full circle.
Yeah, and the other thing too is even before the work that's done on the site, whether it's at the investigation team or the recovery team, the amount of work that goes on in diplomacy, you had alluded to this, Ryan. When the VFW goes over, we just don't visit those sites. We go and visit with the Veterans Association of Vietnam. We go and visit the Ministry of Seeking Missing Persons. We go and visit with the Friendship Union organization that's there, a veterans organization. And so these are organizations within the Vietnamese government. We visit the embassy, the U.S. embassy. So it's all this work that goes in, soft power, if you will, I guess. But it's going in there to try and soften and massage that relationship to the point where teams can go in and can go look for our service members. And it's remarkable the amount of work that's there.
And it's also a two-way street. I mean, first of all, some of our predecessors in the VFW, namely Bob Wallace and Larry Rivers, they were some of the first to go over to Vietnam when Vietnam sought to normalize relations with the United States.
Yep.
It was that veteran-to-veteran type of interaction that, hey, we can move forward together with common interests. But what we're doing out of our office now, and some of you may have seen in the VFW magazine, if there are Vietnam veterans who maybe have some artifacts of their own from when they served in Vietnam, we're collecting those out of this office and making sure that we can get them back either to DPAA or back to the Vietnamese, or even back to Vietnamese families, so that they can have peace of mind in what happened to their loved ones.
Yeah, and it's everything. It's everything from like if you have a uniform with a description on where you found it, or I know that we've
dog tags,
letters. There was somebody who had sent in not long ago. They sent in a collection of passports that were. They went and saw them. It was a collection of passports or ID cards, that they saw at I think it was like a thrift shop.
Oh, geez.
And so they bought them all, and then they sent them to us. So and they're passports of Vietnamese soldiers, North Vietnamese soldiers. So these could very well help find their missing, who in turn allow us to go find our missing. And it's that kind of relationship that works. It's phenomenal. I tell you what, the work is phenomenal. I'm so grateful that I get a chance to do this, not only for the VFW, but also, on behalf of these Gold Star families. I tell people a lot, and I said this a lot in the submission. It's been 40 years since my dad passed away in March. And the thing is I know what happened to my father in his plane crash. I know what happened. There's family members out there, they have no idea what happened to their dad. And so for me to be able to go out there with the VFW to help find closure, or just something to bring closure to these Gold Star families, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal work. So anyway, that's me on that trip. Yes, I got a hat because I'm, super proud of the work that we did.
Well, Rob, let me ask. Look, you kind of opened this one up, and I don't know if you talked about it on the show, but since we haven't connected on this, like you mentioned the anniversary of your dad's passing, and when we're talking about the work that DPAA does and that the military does, it's always making sure that the family comes first and the family understands that our nation is grateful for their sacrifice. I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Okay.
You brought it up. I mean, can you talk a little bit about what the Air Force did for your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, it wasn't just the Air Force, it was the Army too. So so my father, he was in the Air Force Reserves, but on active duty, going through training out of Little Rock Air Force Base back in 1985, March 12th. They were on a training mission where they're doing airborne simulated operations, where they're going in real low on a drop zone and dropping stuff out. Turned out that it was Fort Cavazos, then Fort Hood, that they were using for the training area. And so they caught some prop wash when they were going in on the site, and they just could not pull out of it. There was something with the plane in front of them was a little, it stopped abruptly, and so not stopped, but slowed down abruptly, and then they slowed down, and they couldn't get out of it. So everybody in that cockpit was fighting to save that plane, and it just didn't work out. So they crashed there in the drop zone on March 12th in 1985, and so that changed the trajectory of my life. I went from being a military dependent, to a surviving dependent. And so I had never been to Fort Cavazos ever. You'd think after 24 years in the Army, I would have at least went to the Great Place at least once, right? As they call it, the Great Place. Although that's kind of, depending if you like it or not. But anyway, so I've never been there, and I'd never been to Little Rock Air Force Base. So as it was coming up, my sister and there's a gentleman by the name of Brian Kelleher who just so happened, he reached out to me. His father was the co-pilot of that plane. And I'd never spoken to this guy in 40 years. I didn't know who he was. This was just towards the tail end of last year. So we formed this Facebook group. We started talking about, hey, maybe we should do something. So I just said, well, let me go ask the question. So I called Fort Cavazos, their range operations, and there was a gentleman there who got on the phone and said, absolutely, we'll go ahead and take care of you. It's like, wow, I didn't think that would happen, but all right. And then I called Little Rock Air Force Base and I said, hey, I saw there was an article. I saw that you did something for Gold Star families on their 60th anniversary. Were you planning on doing anything for the 40th? Not sure. Here, submit this form. All right. So I submitted the form, and then they came back and they said, we absolutely want to do something for you. So I joined my sisters and Brian Kelleher. We go to the drop zone on Fort Cavazos. They actually drove us out. We went out there and to the actual location where the plane crashed. And it was just, wow, it was amazing. We sat there, we mourned, we meditated, so to speak, and really looked at, and just looked at this area that had been a mystery to us for like 40 years. And then shortly after that, we went to Little Rock Air Force Base. They greeted us. They drove us down to this place they call the High Flight Memorial, which is a big wall, and it's got names of people that have died there. And there was this mass formation, like of volunteers that they told me about. The entire command came out for this. People that were, they had public fairs and and they had their honor guard there. It was amazing that they had done this for us, and so not only did we have the ceremony, but they also took us on a tour of the base. There's another location there. I did not know that our father's names were on this another wall. We went to the 62nd Airlift Squadron, which was the training unit in which he was part of. The command took us around there. Then we went to a static display of a C-130. That's the plane that crashed. My father, it's now the new J model. So they took all this time and spent all this time 40 years later with these, 40, 50-year-old kids that lost their dad. And they did that for us. Yeah. The Air Force did not forget. And so it's such an amazing, it's such an amazing time, an amazing story. And I know it's a tragedy, but yet it does my heart so good because, for those that don't know, my sisters, they didn't join the military. I've been in the military, been my whole life. I was born in an Air Force base, but for them, that wasn't the case. And so, for them to see which was once a very tragic point in life, that the Air Force for them and their little took away their dad. It brought whole new context to it. And it showed that the military, the Air Force, the Army, they really care about us as a family. And, kudos to those folks on the ground. I just thought it was amazing.
That's amazing.
So sorry that was a long story, but it was it was something that you asked.
Hey, and I appreciate you sharing it with us and with the listeners, because this is why the VFW does what we do. This is why DPAEA does what they do. And it's that peace of mind for the next American who's going to raise their right hand to serve their country, that our country is grateful for their service and sacrifice, and that no matter what happens, we're never going to forget them. And we're going to, as in the case of DPAA and the work that we're able to do alongside them, we're going to pull out all the stops that if they make the ultimate sacrifice overseas, we're going to do everything in our power to bring them home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And honor them and their families. Mike and I have discussed over time, because Mike, basically the first stop after
I grew up in the VFW.
Right, he grew up in the VFW. His first stop out of the hospital was at the local VFW post, and
my post,
your post. And you talk a lot about how back in the day, which it still goes on in different forms and iterations, of honor guards going to funerals and paying respects and helping out military families. I mean, if you could just share a little bit about what the VFW does in that regard. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. And you and I have shared your story a couple of times, and it's always a moment because thankfully, I don't think any of us had to live that. So for what they did, what DOD did for you, that's amazing. And as Ryan said, why we do what we do, but it's also at the local level. That's why when a post member passes, the post assembles to give a prayer and service to remember their sacrifice for their country. And we speak about the American flag, and when they did X and Y and Z, why we offer those certain tributes to them. And one of it's not forgetting them, but it's also providing comfort and solace to the family. And that's been going on as long as I've been around the VFW, which is 56 years. No matter how big or how small your post is, there's always going to be somebody in that post that's going to carry on that tradition.
Yeah.
The VFW ritual says, as long as 2 comrades survive, so shall the veterans of foreign war.
That's right.
Right? Well, you can get granular. As long as 2 comrades survive at your post, so will that post.
Yeah.
So,
do they have a quorum? No, I'm sorry.
Not quite.
No quorum, but it's a post.
It's just the legacy that we've lived, and that we are now part of, that we are shaping, and that we carry forward, because whether we're at this level, at the national level, it doesn't change in that ritual all the way down to post 2017 in Dedham, Massachusetts, or your post in Maryland, or your post in Paris, or your post in Virginia.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's that consistency. But at the end of the day, it's remembrance and taking care of those who are left behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll just kind of give a shameless plug for the VFW Action Corps Weekly, because that's typically something that the legislative service sends out every week on our legislative advocacy. But at the end of every newsletter is POW MIA identifications. Yeah, and there are posts and departments, VFW departments around the country, that monitor those, and whether there's family members alive or aware or not, they'll see those identifications and try to figure out where the funerals are and services and go and participate. And that's just an amazing thing. Like, even if there are no family members available, around, aware, there will be veterans there to honor some of these MIA folks.
I'm glad that you brought up Action Corps. Actually, it leads me to something that was recently said by you, and that was Action Corps over there at the Senior Vice Conference, where you challenge these new incoming state commanders to sign up for Action Corps, read your Action Corps. This is there for you. You want to get involved. I mean, you do great work at the community level. You can bring that to the next level and doing advocacy. And so you had brought that up in the Senior Vice Conference, which is there to train them up and understand is really kind of a leadership conference, if you will. And Ryan, how'd you think? With all 4 of us briefed, so what's your thoughts, boss?
Look, I thought it was a very good discussion, a very good conference. Over the years, I've watched as that conference evolves and new leaders are emerging in the VFW. The level of engagement that the new department commanders are going to have. And look, when the rest of the country steps back on supporting the military, that's when the VFW steps up.
Right.
We're at one of those inflection points right now. You've heard us talk on the podcast before about honor the contract. There was that Economist piece that was published on Thanksgiving that called veterans benefits absurdly generous. That's what kind of kicked off the whole honor the contract movement within the VFW. But what's happened since then is, now that means different things to different people. And so we're really trying to make sure that we empower these new state commanders to be a voice for veterans in their state. I do get worried about, America's willingness to support veterans once, the wars are out of the news, because it's happened before. A lot of people have heard me talk about the 1930s when they did cut veterans' benefits after World War I. So we wanted to put a line in the sand that, our nation needs to honor the contract that we all honored. We all served honorably. We were all enlisted, so we signed the enlistment contract. And those clauses in there, it obligated us to go to combat, hazardous situations. It obligated us to serve honorably. We did that. had obligated our leaders to provide us care benefits and the like. And so preparing these state commanders for difficult questions that they're likely to get in their communities, and even from their own VFW comrades when they engage on certain issues, really preparing them for what the landscape looks like. I thought it was a great conference, a lot of great conversations with incoming state commanders, because they've also, those commanders and leaders at our state level, they're the ones who are on the front lines fighting some of our bigger fights.
Yeah. And, they don't get paid.
No, they are volunteers.
They're volunteers, and they spend that whole year. You can imagine, if you live in Rhode Island, in your state, it's not like you have far to drive to get from one side of the state to the other. Like Massachusetts, there's a lot of posts to go through, but still not a big state. Holy smokes. California?
Texas?
Alaska? I'm sure some of the frozen tundra doesn't have too much or too many posts out there.
They're comrades up there.
Yeah, but anyway, some of these guys volunteer. They're putting their own gas money, their own flights, all these things to make sure veterans are taken care of. So the leadership part, for us to fly out to Kansas City and, hey, this is what crisis communications and the update for, National Veteran Service and for VA claims. And here's the latest for advocacy. And here's what we're doing in national security and foreign affairs. I think all those things hopefully will help arm them, equip them to be able to do their job better. So that's really great. I think one of the things that we brought up, and we're kind of running out because I know you guys got another meeting coming up. We decided to do this and we got to get after it, is partnerships. Now, Kristinia, I'm going to lead with you because you said that you have there is a partnership that you're doing with Grunt Style, but actually you're going to be going onto a podcast here pretty soon. Am I correct?
Yep. Early May, I'll be on the Grunt Style podcast. So we've partnered with them on the issue of alternative treatments for PTSD. They brought this issue to us, but also veterans over the years have brought this issue to us that there are a lot of treatments out there for PTSD that are not available at VA. So together we've partnered to push for legislation, to push VA to research some of these treatments, and to look for ways to provide options for veterans that are living with PTSD and other mental health
So
conditions.
big initiative with the Grunt Style Foundation, which also is they sponsor and this is a new sponsorship, actually. We're presenting sponsor for the Irreverent Warriors. For people that don't know, Irreverent Warriors are the folks that go out there on those silky hikes. So wearing embarrassingly short shorts or ranger panties, as we say in the Army. And they go out on these hikes, and it's all to bring awareness to a variety of veterans issues. And this being one of them, kind of flows across both channels, if you will. So I thought it was a good partner. What do you think, Ryan? What's your?
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the relationship among our I know a Reverend Warrior is now a part of Grunt Style, but like Grunt Style, Reverend Warrior, the VFW, the way that we're working together on some of these issues and to reach deeper into communities of veterans that our organizations may not, traditionally reach to.
That's true.
And bring about some real change. I mean, Kristinia talks about alternative treatments for mental health and PTSD. I've had issues with mental health since coming back from Iraq in 2004. And what I will tell you, one of the other things we're looking at is over-reliance on pharmacological interventions.
Right.
It's something that personally I've always been leery of, and I personally had a bad experience back in 2010. And so we're asking for some common sense reforms. And one of the things that we commonly hear is, well, is this an exclusively VA problem? No, it's not. But VA can be a part of the solution, as veterans usually are. I mean, veterans, we talk about mental health now. And I think as Americans, veterans have been leaders in that space, making sure that it's okay to talk about mental wellness and mental well-being.
Absolutely.
A lot of Americans still don't do that. There's still that stigma. And so when it comes to veterans who may see an issue with overprescription of certain medications, we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
And we can help solve that problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, it was interesting at the Senior Vice Conference, and you had said this earlier today, so I'm going to bring it up, is when you asked how many veterans out there served in Afghanistan, it was like half the room that raised their hands.
Oh, yeah.
And so the VFW is changing, obviously.
Right.
Younger veterans are starting to get involved with our organization, which is great because a lot of them aren't joiners. I'm not a joiner, right?
Except they joined the military.
Except they joined the military, right? And then some people, they joined airborne, and some of them joined, air assault, and they did different things, or special forces. So I think it's great that we're partnering with them and especially getting after this problem set. Now, we are running out of time here. So is there anything for the good of the order? I'm going to go around the room. Mike, what do you got?
Hey, what you just talked about partnerships. One of the things we're looking at now is partnering with the National Association of County VSOs.
Okay.
Because one of the things we hear all the time in this space is we don't have enough help. There aren't enough people out there. Well, there are plenty out there. So there'll be more details forthcoming as we finalize some things closer to July. But looking at those county VFW accredited or cross-accredited service officers just to be a force multiplier. So stay tuned.
All right, good. Kristinia.
Another shameless plug for my post in Paris, France, Post 605. They just installed their new officers. I'm again their chaplain at a distance. But I was sad. Happy to have joined the Senior Vice Conference, but had to miss out again for their installation ceremony in Paris at the French Senate. Yeah. They also had a speaker from the NATO Military Committee. I think it was the deputy head of the NATO Military Committee.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Post 605. Miss you guys, but glad to be on Zoom calls as your chaplain.
As Mike just gestured, you blessed them from afar. So that's good. Ryan, what do you have? We'll give you the last word.
Geez. Oh, I get the last word? No, look, so for the good of the order, I talked in the beginning about the health issues, shingles. So first of all, for the good of the order, get your shingles shot if you can, or if you have an underlying condition or convince your doctor that you have an underlying condition, get that shot. Don't go through what I'm going through. But in addition to that, I really wanted to brag on the team that we have at the Washington office, because that was a critical time that I went down for health. It was basically the entire month of February. I was kind of mostly bedridden, in pain with my face not working. And it was, everyone at this table, Kristinia, Mike, Rob, everybody picked up slack. Pat, if you're listening, everybody picked up their jobs and made sure that our Washington conference went off without a hitch. I mean, there were a lot of things that everyone forced me to hand off. I'm just really grateful for all of that. The first time I was able to really get back out was that Washington conference, but I wasn't on the dais with the chief, but that's okay, because you were on the dais with the chief and made sure that he was prepped and delivered a strong message to Congress about honoring the contract. So, thank you to our team and the VFW generally. The VFW leadership, our line officers, our commander-in-chief, our adjutant general, our quartermaster general had so much support through this.
Yeah.
And so I just needed to say thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And actually, I have one thing before we go, and that is...
you have anything really good in the order, Rob?
I do have something that's good for you, and that is my co-host, Brittany Dymond Murray, who is not here. And the reason why is because her, and if you didn't know, her and Pat are married. So her and Pat welcomed baby Finnegan about a month ago. And we just want to wish them all the best. Congratulations to the two of you. He is absolutely adorable. And we look forward to you coming back when you're able to come back, Brittany. So anyway, with that, we're going to say so long for now. And until next time, just remember this. When it comes to the VFW, we are still serving. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Still Serving, the VFW podcast. To get the latest news and information from the veterans of foreign wars, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media at VFW HQ, on Facebook at VFW Fans, or visit our website at vfw.org.